All right, so we're going to be going over some practice problems on for your practice test. So please make sure I would write this information down in your notes. That way, when you take your real test, you can use them as a reference. All right, so the first thing I highly recommend you do is make sure you realize what it's asking you to do. In this problem, it's asking us to subtract these two things. So that's really important. It might ask you to multiply them, add them, subtract them, divide them. So it's really important that you know we need to subtract these things. All right, so since these are fractions, we know in order to add or subtract fractions, they have to have a common denominator. Well, hopefully you realize, oh, the bottoms are the same. So we don't have to do anything except for I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it. I'm going to put negative 8x over 3x plus 5. And then I'm going to put minus the next fraction, 3x plus 5. And remember what I say, since they have a common denominator, these fractions are in love, so we must combine them. And so hopefully you realize that this second fraction has a negative. So we need to make sure we distribute that negative. So what does that change? Oh, well, instead of being a negative 9x, we're going to do the opposite, and this ends up being plus 9x. So I'm just going to write it at the top, negative x plus 9x, because this subtraction sign changes that to a positive. Double negative becomes a positive, all over the same denominator of 3x plus 5. Remember, that only changes if you're subtracting. If you were adding these things, then you would leave it, negative 8x minus 9x, and combine them. All right, so hopefully you realize these things are like terms, so we actually have to combine them. They both have x's. So what is negative 8x plus 9x? That is just going to be 1x. I like to just write x. If you put the 1 in front of there, no big deal. And then over its denominator. And so this is your answer. And so you can either write that one or not. So now, after you watch this video, write it down in your notes as reference, try the next practice problem.